In 1994, there was a major forest rescue campaign to protect Giblet Forest, and as a result, only one small area was clear-felled. But in 1997, the loggers returned to Giblet. When tree felling began on April the 30th, another major forest rescue got underway.
What's been happening today was that this morning we blockaded the main roads leading in to Giblet Block, and this resulted in Bunnings Forest Products not coming in here today, which we're quite pleased about. And I understand, in fact, they'll not be coming in here until a temporary control area is declared by CALM. So that will give us some sort of a breathing space to get the campaign really off the ground.
I was always divided with forest protests and that, because I came from a rural background. My father, he was a shearer, and his father was a shearer, and I spent a lot of time as a kid in shearing teams and travelling around, working with the men, and I idolised those shearers and idolised that working life. I identified more with people working in the industry, but I also identified with what the greenies or ferals, the environmentalists were trying to do, and so I was always really, really divided.
I think it's more important to talk here, because then the TV crew can see whether we're in a safe position or not, and if we're not in a safe position, then you can give us advice.
We'll come out to the Court Road.
Well, this is where the camp's all going, okay? You've been home for office, Alan.
I've been to camp.
Court Road.
No, they're here already. You want to zoom up now? Or?
Okay. Craig, can you tell us what you're doing here in the middle of the Giblet Forest?
In the middle of the Giblet Forest, what I'm doing is taking a stand against what's happening here in the forest. Basically, I'm going up to that platform, 30 metres up.
Talk a bit louder for us.
30 metres up onto this ancient marri tree. Basically, what I'm doing is here supporting what's happening in the conservation movement down in the forest.
The straighter you stand upright, the easier it is.
Okay.
And the bigger steps you take, the easier it is.
Fly like an eagle.
Oh, you know the word.
I'm not a scientist, but I understand the importance of the forest and the diversity of the species that the old forest, like this part of the forest down here in Pemberton, supports.
How important do you think it is for the old growth forest areas to remain?
It's really, really important. The old growth mixed Karri Marri and Jarrah forest that exists down in the southwest doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet, and this is our backyard, and it's our responsibility to look after that. I don't feel like I'm any different to the people that work in the timber industry. I have close friends and relations that actually work in the timber industry, and I think they're aware of what's been happening here and the fact that the government of Western Australia and Western Australia in general has been exploiting this forest for over 100 years, and it's time that we made a change. And I think that the alternatives in terms of plantation timber exist. It's time that we made that change. If the turn of the millennium is not time for change, then I don't know when is. Thanks, guys. You guys are the ones that deserve the clap.
Craig turned up down here completely of his own volition. No one even knew he was here. One thing led to another, and now he's up the tree. It's a big boost for the campaign to have people like Craig, who are well known in the community, come down here and lend their support to this campaign. I mean, he's got a big following, and I think most West Australians already support what we're doing, but this will sort of emphasise just how important it is.
The trick is to dry the pot out of water before you put the oil in. Around every camp develops a culture. Yep, and this camp has developed quite a good food culture. There's always someone cooking. Anyone that comes in gets a feed, but sometimes it's first served. First in, first served. The thing is that it's good actually to be late, because you actually get to potter around in the kitchen without having to cook for 20 or 30 or 40 people. Great.
So move over to the right. Go.
What was it like sleeping up in a tree?
It was terrific. I slept very well. This platform was very stable. I was dry. But being up in the canopy was superb. But obviously the southwest and West Australia is what's important to me. It's where home is, and it's where I want to raise my children.
Okay, well,
that's my other interview. Hello.
No more wood chipping, Bunnings out! 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 No more wood chipping,
Dawn was beautiful.
Yeah?
Dawn was beautiful. Quiet. Yeah, I spend almost all my time when I'm in Australia down in near Albany.
What do you like about the area, Luke?
Well, one of the things that I like obviously is the forests and the natural environment. I've been all over the world. I've seen an awful lot of the world, and I think this is the most beautiful stuff that I've seen.
Previously, Sid Shea, the director from CALM, made a statement that CALM was committed to ecotourism, and he was pleased to be part of that. So in my last 30 seconds, I invited Sid Shea to join with me and the tourist industry in Pemberton to save the old growth forest.
And what was his response to that offer?
I had a very loud applause from the 700 representatives in the tourist industry there, and his response was he got up and left.
He got up and left.
He left?
He left.
Now in 1992, the government was trying to con the Dutch into buying our carry, and they won't buy from non-sustainable forests, right? So this map was produced by the same department in 1992. Now here
What am I gonna do? What about the future? Gotta draw the line without delay. Why shouldn't I get emotional? The bush is sacred. Ancient life will fade away. Over the hill they go, killing another mountain.
If you get around Australia as much as I do, you'll realise it's such an arid land, and I mean, we've already demolished more forests than we ever should have in the first place. So for anyone to talk about, where do we draw the line? Well, we're going way over the line, and I stand up for bush all around the country.
Richard, you got another harness?
Change or ice or more decay. Rip, wood chip, turn it into paper. Throw it in the bin, no news today. Nightmare dreaming, can't you hear the screaming? Chainsaw, ice storm, or one more. Rip, wood chip, turn it into paper. Throw it in the bin, no news today. Nightmare dreaming, can't you hear the screaming? Chainsaw, ice storm, or decay.
After 4 months in Giblet Forest, a community committed to non-violent direct action has grown. The principles of non-violence are, amongst other things, honesty, respect, and proudly taking responsibility for all of our actions. One of the ironies of seeking media coverage for a non-violent action is that media are always after a scuffle. High-profile involvement had fortunately interested them enough for us to decide to direct this attention toward the harsher realities, namely intensive logging and wood chipping of old-growth forests. Staging an action at Bunnings Wood Chip Mill allowed us to stop the 24-hour wood chipping operation for a triumphant 8 hours.
There's about 50 protesters at the Manjimup Bunnings Wood Chip Mill. About 30 of them have gone into the mill and occupied the wood chip plant itself, and also have occupied the wood chip train, which is waiting at the station to load up with wood chips.
The other beautiful thing about non-violence is how much it confuses everybody. If you don't fall into the victim role and you don't attack them either, there's no pattern to follow, and it's like something new has to be created.
We've been planning this for about a week. We went in at about 3 o'clock this morning. We did it in such a way to make sure that everybody's safety was paramount. It was all very carefully organised, and it's gone off without any problems. And we're hoping and expecting to be here for quite a few hours to come.
What's your name, please?
Jess.
Short for Jessica. And Jess, if you don't leave, you are going to be arrested. Are you aware of that? Fine. Okay. You're a finder?
I'm here to see that old growth forests will remain standing in the future, and that they won't be cut down to be made into wood chips to be sent over to Japan, to be made into toilet paper and cardboard to be sent back to us. I think that if we want the old growth forests to be standing in all their glory, then we've got to keep using the plantations and get away from old growth forests. And the only way that that's going to happen is if there's enough public response to the industry that's underway at the moment. And that's I'm here representing the Australian people who are against wood chipping of old growth forests.
Was it a hard decision to make?
No, it wasn't really, because I've been thinking about all of this for a couple of years now, and I think when it finally came around to the point that we had all of this organised, it just seemed like the absolutely perfectly natural thing to do, to go right to the heart of the beast and try to stop it from there.
Try and get this out. Thank you, universe!
Going good enough, listen.
After successfully holding up the wood chip mill in Manjimup, we moved on to the wood chip ship in Bunbury.
I can't sit down because the thing's too high up.
About 3:30 or 4 this morning, a group of protesters set up camp outside the Bunnings wood chip facility, and a number of them went inside the facility.
Hang in there, crew, we're all with you!
Locked onto the conveyor belt here, and there's a man locked on at the top of the stairs there, and another one under the train. G'day, Bob. Morning, John. We won't allow people.
So we're here for the whole of the community. These forests that are going on in this ship.
Has the opportunity.
A giant Japanese woodchip freighter has pulled into Bunbury Port to load probably somewhere in the vicinity of 100,000 tonnes of old-growth woodchips from our native forests, and we have come along here today to further our protest against the destruction of our old-growth forests, mainly to produce woodchips for export to Japan.
This stage, one person has been arrested from underneath the train at the other end of the facility, and he came voluntarily. There was no problems. He's been taken into the lockup and will be released on bail in due course.
When your emotions take you to the level where you just have to be in there and stop them doing those things, and nothing else. You don't think about anything else. It's just something that needs to be done. It was a good feeling to see these people start to blossom and bloom in their various aspects of the campaign. And just the things they took on and the duties and whatever they took on and just carried out in amazing, colourful ways, always with smiles on their faces.
What we see here are the heroes of the forest actually standing up for what is right rather than what a very narrow sector of the industry want, which in fact, in my opinion, goes against the interests of Western Australia.
We're feeling a bit under siege. We have it from the police department that they've been requested by CALM to take action. Presumably the Minister has stepped in and authorised the police to come in and remove protesters from the site.
Roger's putting out a media release.
If this camp goes, the moment this camp moves, the log trucks are in and the chainsaws are in, and that really we need...
If they get the TCA, that's exactly what they'll do. We've had sort of terrorist squad looking people down here with all sorts of measuring equipment and video cameras and compasses and filming the area and just familiarising themselves with it. And if the TCA comes on, the police and CALM are saying that they will come here with a cherry picker and try to get me out of the tree and move the camp.
We'll take you off, please. Thanks very much.
About 20 minutes past 6, 2 CALM officers and a police officer came over to the New Moon camp over there and asked the 2 people there, including myself, if we had camped there overnight. And we said yes.
And what was their response then?
They said, then we'll be issuing you with an infringement notice and the fine's $50.
Do you know where they were when you spoke to them? They would have been in this group. Yeah, right. They're using a new camping regulation, which I think only came into effect in March '96, which effectively precludes any West Australian from camping anywhere in any state forest unless it's a designated camping area without the express approval of Dr. Sid Shea.
I think it's just part of CALM's process of trying to intimidate forest protesters. They don't like people who disagree with their plans for our forest, and we disagree a lot.
So we got to the point where someone's gone out and negotiated with the police.
So would have someone been negotiating, like if CALM and media are there before the police?
No, nothing is said until the police arrive.
Until the police arrive.
There was a massive meeting. I was at the tree, but there was a massive meeting deciding how we were going to leave.
Oh God, that's right, yeah.
And by someone from the Minister's office that is the case and that it won't be logged and there won't be a TCA put on this area until after the RFA process.
While this huge meeting that had been going on in camp for hours to decide how we were going to leave Giblet, I was just up the tree on the phone and didn't know what the meeting was about. And at the end of this meeting, someone sent me up this letter saying what was going to happen and that...
you were going to come down?
Yeah, at one point, you know, Jess is going to come in with a letter and give it to you and you're going to get down out of the tree and leave Giblet. And I was just like, no! And I went through a real dilemma in that because I hadn't been a part of that circle and hadn't heard all the points of view. And I was being told that I was going to get down at the appropriate moment and leave. And for me to leave Giblet was just huge. And to get down out of the tree was just huge. And that, the only reason I could get down out of that tree and leave the bush without having been a part of that negotiation process was because I had complete trust in our circle, in our community. And that was the power of that community of non-violence, was that it taught me to really trust my friends because I knew their intentions were good.
We decided that the only way we could possibly leave Giblet was if we had total security, if we had a letter from the Minister and a letter from the head of CALM, or Peter Keppel from CALM, and a statement from them both on the tally. So we decided we were going to ask for that, and we'd had the most terrible time trying to negotiate with CALM, hey, like it just doesn't happen. And then we started negotiating with the cops instead. Well, Chris did. He got hold of Steve Roast from the cops, and he was heaps easier to talk to. And it looked like we were actually both looking for a situation where we could end it without having to all fight with each other and keep the forest standing as well. Then we got everything that we wanted. The next morning he rang up and said, yeah, no worries, like you can have those 2 letters and those 2 people on the telly, that's cool. He must have been expecting us to ask for heaps more. And we were stoked. We started having a party on the road at about 4:30 in the morning. We had to phone the cops at 7 to say, where the hell are you? You're late for the party. And they came, didn't they?
Okay, let's go and get these people out of the trees.
It's what I feel in my heart, and if I didn't act out what's on my heart, I'd be ashamed of myself. And it's a very easy commitment to make to the earth.
Right, thanks.
Thank you.
How was it up there, by the way?
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend it to anyone. Anytime there's a forest in danger, go there, put a platform up.
I think this is a win for common sense, it's a win for the community, a win for all the parties involved.
It's certainly a tremendous outcome, and it's an outcome which has been achieved through open dialogue, yeah.
And have you found the Greenies have been tough or hard to deal with? Or?
No, they've been absolutely brilliant to deal with. They've conducted themselves at all times with the greatest of integrity. They've given me their word, and they've stuck by that.
So pretty much Hillager provided 2 opportunities for us as a campaign. The first was after Giblet to broaden the focus of the campaign to the wider old growth issue in terms of preserving all old growth forests in Western Australia, not just Giblet as an icon, save Giblet. And the second was that given that we were moving into summer and the Jarrah forest is broadly speaking logged in summer and the Karri in winter, we wanted to bring attention to the Jarrah forest. And to the issues that surround Jarrah logging, which are quite different and distinguished from Karri forest logging.
Regardless of the RFA process, there have been no flora and fauna surveys done on the Hillager forest, and we believe that until these are completed, to log the forest is both irresponsible and premature.
It was an amazing time, and it was a really good decision that we made, I think, to go out there, because the Jarrah often doesn't get nearly as much attention in the southwest as it deserves.
quite a lot of media attention on the Hilliger campaign. It was very close to Nannup. Nannup has a mill still. There's a lot of feeling in the community around the issue, and so there was a lot of community involvement in what we were doing. There were often people, groups of workers and their families coming out to the camp to make representations to us, or just to come out and voice their opinion on what we were doing.
Felt like we had to be a little bit more careful about the actions that we took and the way that we did them, because there was so much more anger in Nannup, and there was a full propaganda campaign going by Bunnings saying that the Nannup mill was going to close if they didn't get Hilliger.
They're disrupting people who it's their lawful right to be working with, doing their job. You know, and it's affecting not only these people here doing their job, but our community as well, and it upsets me deeply.
How does the community feel about it?
They're getting, it's getting more and more hostile, and I guess it won't be very long before there will be a lot of confrontation.
How strong are the concerns, not only for the community members and local business owners, but the mill workers themselves and for their families?
Oh, there's a lot of concern. If we don't have this forest here, Hilliger Block, that will definitely shut down the mill at some stage this year and put a lot of people out of work.
The mill workers are told that if they do not get Hilliger to log in this season, this mill will close down. Now this raises issues to us of the sustainability of the timber industry in this area, and we wonder where they are going to go next season.
Hilliger was the most intense time I'd had to that date, at a blockade. Yeah, it was quite emotionally destroying for a lot of the people involved there because of the overwhelming scale of the operation by CALM and the industry. There was over 100 workers working in a block where they'd normally have about a dozen. We'd have FPS workers, Forest Protection Society people there on a fairly regular basis. So it's they can be pretty difficult people to deal with, if difficult's the right word. The no-show day, yeah, that was quite good. We'd had a couple of hard weeks before that, I think, and we knew that there was going to be a lot of workers there. The FPS, a strong police and CALM presence. I think there was TRG guys supposed to be there. So we just made a decision, because everybody's quite tired at that stage, we just made a decision not to go. And it proved to be a pretty good decision, because it was in the middle of summer, but it poured with rain that day. And we were all sitting at home having long discussions as to what we could do for the rest of that campaign. And yeah, and then I think we had a really good coverage on the news that evening, and that was without even showing up. So I think everybody was delighted with that day.
There was 120 workers in there at one point, and 12 of us over 1,800 hectares. It was a major reality shift, and we had to accept that we couldn't just move into a bit of bush, and we knew that our hearts weren't accustomed to it.
Once logged, our old-growth forests can never return. We've been caught in a lose-lose deadlock. Things have got to change. They want to present the public with the impression that it's either jobs or old-growth forests, but not both.
We're all losers in this RFA process. The loggers are as much a loser from the RFA as the flora and fauna of our forests.
When we went to Lane Forest, we went there directly from a rally in Perth, where we called for people to come to the forest. There would have been close to 20 people, most of them new recruits. We stumbled across this little block called Lane. They'd scrub rolled it and they'd felled maybe 20 trees out of the coop.
I think the forest draws people here. In a way, it is crying out for help. Well, I feel safe sitting up here, and it blows around a bit in a storm and the tarps shake around, but yeah, it's safe.
Would it be against our word to go back and then lock on as well?
No, I don't think so. There'll be a big circle happening soon.
Yeah, okay.
And the decision will be made there.
Okay.
The wisdom of the group will prevail.
Yeah.
I don't think who we are or our culture can be separated from the land that we live in or our surroundings. And that is who we are. What the land gives us. It's a very ancient, very old land. It's important that we keep it that way. We can't look after the land or the forests or our deserts and keep moving along the direction that we are. We have to create change.
Hello, tree person.
Hello, how is it going?
Be good. You wouldn't have troops down the main camp there by any chance?
I'll call down and see.
Yeah, Trudy. Bernie said, could you go to the roadblock? Is there anyone else down in the camp here?
Was it Jeff and Chris Lee and a few others, and I started going down to the camps every day, and then one of them suggested I should shift in because I'm there all the time, and I thought, well, that's a good idea, you know, so I shifted in and didn't want to leave after that. Spent 3 months there and totally enjoyed the company of the people in the forest.
This place is just as important as Wattle, but from different angles.
Before they actually move in there and start logging.
Yeah, we might do, but this place we've thought about, we've got it covered, we've got our infrastructure everywhere, you've got local people who give a fuck.
For our community, I think two things are coming out of it. It can go either way. I think the community, the bond is going to be cemented. I think that as things get tougher, we're going to pull together more and more. And what we're hoping for is absolute and utter support from the whole broader community of Western Australia.
It was a really big change in the campaign. For the first time, we had active support from local people, and it was fantastic. It's very easy for the logging communities to say, well, you know, who are these people from the city to come and tell us what we should be doing with the bush? And, you know, rightly so, they've been here for generations, many of them. So it's really hard as an outsider to come here and to be protesting in this way. So local community involvement is just fantastic if you can get it.
I just had sort of premonitions of what I should be doing, and I'd been watching the timber industry going at it for sort of about 5 or 6 years in this area, and I just thought it's going to be too late later, so I thought do something now. I've ignored it for long enough, so I'm doing something about it now, just helping out when I can at the camps and things like that.
It was a time of despair. I mean, it was the most difficult thing to go out there every day doing actions and trying to stop logging, and no matter what you do, there's still logging occurs every day.
It wasn't from here, and I came because I was called. And just for me personally, I feel it would be an act of great arrogance to say that I know enough about the bush to decide which bit should stand and which bit should go. And the whole time, one of my major issues about this campaign has been that we, as a culture, are so homocentric. We've completely forgotten that the forest should just exist for itself. I'm not saying that happens in this circle, but that's the attitude that I think we're fighting. For us to go forward and say, Giblet's got to stand, Jane's got to stand, Sharp's got to stand, I don't know who we are to say that. And I come from the place of no compromise for Mother Earth. That is my work, is that I fight for this. When I'm tired, I go away. When we're tired, maybe we need to step back a bit.
It's not like there's not much left to keep or a lot anyway. I think every single tree that's standing now deserves to die a natural death.
We're compromising the whole time, every day. Those 50 hectares are falling. And, you know, in the depths of my heart, I've been sitting in these places for long enough to just say no. There's no compromise to be had here. We have no right to be cutting these forests down.
Well, I'm sitting in this log pile, and while I'm going to be climbing in there probably in the next day or so, it's just like, I mean, these huge logs, they're just going to be made into cardboard boxes. I mean, these are the logs they've pulled out of the coop already, and the biggest pile is for chip, like these are all chip logs. There's a smaller pile over there that are sawmill logs. These are just like considered pretty worthless things, and like, yeah, they were home to hundreds of different species of things, and now they're just going to make cardboard boxes. It's just sickening. As long as more people are coming like me to these protests and more people are sort of getting in touch with the whole situation and just the time frame of it, and the fact that in a few years it'll all be gone, like it's just a rush. They're rushing to log the last of it and we're rushing to save the last of it. You know, most of people living in West Australia should be able to decide what goes on in Western Australia.
Lane Forest was quite different to Giblet in that there was no doubt from the word go that Calm was determined to cut that block. They wanted to, they'd been frustrated with us sitting in here for 8 months, and they didn't want that situation to happen again. So the response there was that we dug in hard, and we started using steel and concrete to make strong positions, to put what we call dragons into under trees and in the roads. And these are pipes which are cemented into the ground, which you put your arm in and you lock in there.
It might not be so good here for the arm. Although you could bend your arm in, yeah?
Yeah, no, that's okay there for the arm. You watch. Give it a go. It's actually very comfortable. Right. Sure. I designed it so that you can block the hole to the maximum.
This one's sticking
with your body.
Should we go through a bit more?
Well, we can come through a little bit more, but not too much. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got it from the inside. Ready?
Yeah. It does. Oh, hang on.
Beautiful.
It's locking there.
Yeah, that'll be just fine there.
Pop it with a little stick, I think.
Yeah, I did. That'll be just lovely. Oh. Okay, Gary, reach your arm in. Mind the barbed wire, please.
Right there. Yep. Yeah.
Reach your arm right in.
I can't.
Excellent.
My arm's...
Keep going. Yeah, so's the rest of you. Right. Excellent. Does this mean we're married?
Yeah.
question was whether it was you people were happy for us to come in and take the logs that were on the ground.
Just on the landing or on the ground in the pit?
Both. So the stuff that's stacked up on the side of the road and the stuff that's been felled and that's lying in the pit.
As the same as what Peter Keppel said to us this morning, that he's not willing to preempt what's going to happen at these negotiations in Mandurah today. Neither are we willing to preempt what's going to happen at these negotiations, and we really would like to wait and see what comes of it. So at the moment it's just no comment about what was put to us this morning about whether we're going to leave at this point, whether people are going to be allowed in to take these logs and stuff. And at the same time as that, there's by no way do we oppose that these logs sitting on the landing on the side of the road here are not taken, because we agree that they just shouldn't be left there, and other forests get cut down instead of them.
It was a really controversial and difficult decision, and it took us days and days of talking to reach the decision that we did. And to be honest, none of us are sure whether it was right or not.
I think it was a bugger up on our side for not seeing it right through. There was 40 people and it was really hard to make a decision about it. The walkout was the worst thing we could have done, but it gained us a hell of a lot of experience never to walk out again and lose a forest like that.
We are asking you to leave immediately so the industry can go through and remove the logs that are on the ground.
Okay, make sure that they all understand that there is a temporary control.
Proposed by Peter Keppel that this is a temporary control area, and we've been asked to leave so they can come in and take the logs on the ground. That was what was said to me, and that's what we agree to, I think. They can take the logs on the ground. We don't agree with putting Kevin or Nick in any danger whatsoever by falling trees. So that's why we're leaving, okay?
We were told that they were just going to remove logs that were on the ground, and as soon as we left they started felling. We felt betrayed by Khan, we were lied to, and we lost the whole block.
We came and drove around and saw it for ourselves, and it was just like, no way. They couldn't possibly.
Well, it was really exciting because a really small group of us set it up, and what was great was that we were right on the South West Highway, and so our prime focus, or one of them, was community education, whereby we were taking people every day down through the 200 metre buffer zone from the highway down to a clear fell and showing them what was going on behind closed doors, basically, in forest management in the southwest.
Wattle formed the link between two major national parks, the Shannon and Mount Franklin. Once logged, the only significant wildlife corridor that would remain was a 200 metre strip bordering the highway.
What did you think of what you saw? Rather disappointing that they destroy it for just short-term gain.
Do you think that should we shocked? Will this thing happen in your country?
No, because we don't have forests like that. So Do you use production forest to get wood for paper, for whatever is necessary?
You get that sometimes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Morning.
Alright, first of all I've got to do the caution. I'm a CALM officer from the Department of CALM. You don't have to say anything, but anything you do say will be taken down and may be used in the evidence. Do you understand the caution?
I thought we were meant to get those warnings, you know, in order to give us a little bit of time to pack up.
I think you have had warnings before.
Have we had warnings this time round? I haven't had anybody come out and warn me.
And getting woken up like at least twice a week by CALM officers with big lights and video cameras dragging us out of our bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to tell us we were illegally camping in the bush. Well, it was the first time I ever felt there was an enemy, because that's how CALM chose to react to us, by putting on their big personas
and
coming along and saying, we're the enemy and here's the bright lights and here's your bits of paper. And it was just like, oh, they think they're the enemy, okay.
If you do not wish to have the complaint of the offence heard and determined by court, you may pay the modified penalty of $50. Thank you.
You just leave your camera there, mate, please. This is a briefing. I think it's only right that
I
you
believe I'm legal. Could you please speak to my liaison officer here?
Well, I'm just asking you to move out of my face, all right? So you move over there, please. Otherwise, you'll be the first one in the back of the van.
For what?
Because you're hindering me, because you're directing the camera under the briefing, all right?
That is a hindering, is it?
Basically. Just move over there, please.
I have to advise you, if you don't comply with my requirement, you can be arrested under Section 82B3 of the Police Act for preventing lawful activity of these workers. And also, if anybody interferes with us, we can charge it with hindering us.
When more people started to find out what was really going on, and when our ongoing commitment to non-violence kind of achieved that, because we kept focusing on the real issue and there wasn't violence to distract from the issue.
This is for the forest. It's so important that people take a stand to prevent our old growth forests from being logged. It's a sacrilege what's going on here. It's an absolute crime.
From the time logging began in Wattle, stockwork actions occurred daily to slow the clear felling as much as possible. Over 80 people were arrested during the 2.5 months before the workers retreated. And now 2/3 of the area they plan to log still stands today.
Like the main thing that's in the media at the moment is about the EPA saying that CALM aren't living up to their ministerial conditions, and this is a condition that they're supposed to comply to. Yeah? So I think like something that can get into focus is trying to get that story into the media. Yeah? That they want to come around, they want to come over that culvert there, and they're going to have to do some work to do it. I've read out the regs to the guy, the CALM guy who's in charge. Yeah, and the media are onto getting a story about that. A real atmosphere, like everyone was trying to figure out what we could do with the law, who was actually responsible for the people that were in the bush while trees had been falling. We didn't expect them to fall trees while people were in there. It's like, you know, you could hear, you were standing there next to a policeman and you could hear one of your mates calling out, and then seconds later a tree would fall right next to them. And you're saying to this cop, you know, what's going on? This is a really dangerous situation. There must be something that you can do, that you are obliged to do about this.
Do you think that's safe what they're doing in their way?
I know that when the first tree was felled, I would consider that it was safe, yes. That one there I had nothing to do with, so I can't say.
We can see it, it's so close to your trucks there.
It just became more and more clear that what was going on in the bush just wasn't right, and people couldn't ignore it any longer. the prime of the tree is 150 years, is it not?
I don't know.
So when
that's you've
well,
said
shouldn't
that,
you know if you're the head of the chopping down
if
department?
it's such an old tree, what is the point of cutting it down if it's not prime timber?
But it is. It will make prime timber.
And there's one tree down there with the great big hole in the butt.
It will make prime timber.
It's already been cut down.
Which one?
Oh, there's another cathedral tree that was cut down that's apparently going to be left there because it won't be used. It hasn't even been cut into sections to take away.
Just felled and left.
Just felled and left. Yeah, on Saturday. So,
well, actual fact, you seem to know more about it than me, so I don't know why you keep asking me the questions.
Well, you're the one that's chopping the trees
Well, because
down.
we are so concerned
that somebody's chopping the trees down, and there's no
this
sensible
is irreplaceable old growth forest, and there is so little of it left. We've got desecration there, desecration there, desecration as far as the eye can see.
Where do you think Liz Davenport is?
Good question.
Do you think she's lost?
Her husband's gone within the block to look for her. He's had no success. We haven't spotted her since just after 7 this morning.
What she's managed to do is colour coordinate all the ferals on this occasion where they've got Liz Davenport designed t-shirts, and one has to wonder if there's just another stage publicity stunt by a high profile person trying to further raise their profile at the expense of the timber workers.
For the first time, there are enough active people for us to sustain a number of camps as well as carry out short-term actions throughout the forest. At the same time, a traditionally conservative element of the WA community began to take an active role.
These people came in the bush, walked right up the tree that I was falling, which is against one of our laws. You're not allowed to come anywhere near us, remember, fallen trees. Walked right at me. They stopped me. Now they won't even let me drive the ute away. They say it's nothing personal. Well, they should go and see Richard Court, not me.
Rob Lewis, who's the Shire President of Denmark, is just sitting in the coop behind one of those machines and he's not prepared to move.
Yeah, I understand that, and it's no disrespect for you or the law, but I'm afraid.
That then means, of course, that you're not going to be here stopping what you want to stop because you're going to be in my custody.
I thought I would make a personal stand and try and actually stop things from actually happening in the forest, which I've done. We've stopped the logging operations here today.
This world is a precious place to be. It's not a TV show. There's nowhere else to go. You want to live in outer space. No, we'll start wrecking this place.
I think that determination and that courage that people demonstrated is what attracted so many other people to the campaign and what spurred people in the city into action.
The people occupying this building behind me must realise that they will not get away with false concessions and new committees any longer.
They are not, and I emphasise not, a renewable resource.
Harvesting operations are about to commence in Wattle Harvesting Coop. Any unauthorised persons in the temporary control area are directed to make their way to the boundary road immediately.
One of the policemen said to me, oh, well, I've done everything that I've got to do, you know, I've covered all the regulations I've got to cover, I've sent my men out there, they've looked, they've scouted, they've called, they haven't seen anybody, and it's your people who are being irresponsible, and that it was that whole your people thing that he was trying to do, you know, trying to make out as if there was somebody who was leading this whole adventure so that he could bust them for conspiracy.
Well, we're satisfied with no
Machine. You've heard the whistles right by the machine.
As Greg spoke to before, he explained the whole situation to him, so I don't think it's coming to you again.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about
the safety measures. Greg explained it all to you, weren't you? And you know exactly what he said?
Yeah.
And that's what happened, right?
I just don't feel the safety measures being taken are being effective.
What did he say?
It's meant to be for your own safety, but I was in there and they were scrub rolling and the timberjack was going. So, yeah, it's not for safety reasons, it's all, it's just to keep protesters out.
This government is throwing the death
Australian government. Little stunts like that, of course, will get a bit of coverage, but they will not deter the Australian government or the Western Australian government from informing the Australian people, and most particularly the people of Western Australia, that the Regional Forest Agreement is a very balanced result between jobs and the protection of important forests.
You haven't got a friend in this building. There will be war between us, and that's where I stand on it.
Packing up or what? Are you packing up? That's what you got to do, pack up and fuck off. You got 5 minutes.
All right, can we just stop for a second and let the child leave? Can we just let the baby leave?
Start now.
I just want the child to be able to leave, so everyone can just chill out for 2 minutes. It's not going to...
Fuck off, out of there.
I'm just going to get the child, all right? I've got one thing to say.
Don't want to hear what you've got to fucking say. I don't want to hear what you've got to say. Your opinion means fuck all to me.
I'm sorry about what's happening to you.
Oh, bullshit. Well, why are you fucking still here? Fuck off.
Car after car after car of workers was arriving in waves almost, and it ended up being around 40 workers coming. Some were wearing balaclavas, most of them had some form of implement, some were baseball bats, sledgehammers, axes, etc., and they refused to communicate, they weren't making eye contact, they weren't using names, as some of them do actually know us from previous actions, and they were just basically intent on destruction.
Police were informed on the Friday that we had fairly solid information that this was what was going to happen. It was also printed in the Australian paper that a move to the camps by the timber workers was fairly much the next move after their 10-day standoff on Parliament House steps. I'm really angry at the politicians who have fuelled the flames of this for the last 10 days. I mean, the timber workers have literally been on the doorstep of Parliament. They're taking their distress to the city, and that I acknowledge and admire. What I don't admire is politicians standing before these timber workers who don't have any security in their industry. Those politicians have stood there and incited this sort of thing, you know, encouraged this sort of thing to happen. And I'm wondering when the politicians are going to take this issue seriously, realise that these are real people's lives and livelihoods.
They actually said that we've come here to get the disease out of the forest. As it had actually been said previously in the city that the forest was to be cleansed, and this was the cleansing.
Now, Mr Brax, I believe, has brought along the Athena Award for the Foundation's first Earth Champion, and she is Gina Litton from East Fremantle, whose award recognises her efforts to save the remaining old-growth forest in Western Australia.
We're at a critical phase of this issue. We have made significant gains, and yet the forests are still being logged. Our challenge is to bring this campaign to an end, where finally our old-growth forests are safe. The forests belong to everybody, and the vast majority of the community want them saved. The responsibility to ensure that this happens rests with all of us.